And we are live. Welcome back, everyone. This is our monthly check in. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time with the challenge, this is our first challenge kickoff call. Welcome to the Manifestation Challenge. Lacy, how are you doing? You are glowing
Thank
today.
you. You know what I figured out? There are two things. It's the like I feel like I have them here because I just did my makeup. But do you know that I feel like everybody needs to know about this, and they have different colors for your skin type, but it's life changing. It's totally life changing. It's that Elia liquid light serum highlighter. I just put it all over
Ooh,
my face, and then I'm learning
whoa.
how to contour for maturing skin. So this is the change. This is the change.
It looks fantastic.
All of
Like,
it has totally transpired from those clips that we have that go out from the podcast. I'm like, oh god, I need
we
to
are upgrading them. We are getting
upgrading
them
them.
to a new level in the new year. I
Yes,
promise, guys. That was our
manifesting that this year.
test one, our batch one, our iteration one, and we're gearing
Yes,
up for better clips in the new
yes.
year.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just telling Lacey before we joined this call that I went down a rabbit hole trying to find my authentic code words because I really, and this is like that investigator learner side in me, but I was like, I want to like explore all possible elements of my authenticity. Like I want to see every angle, every word, things that like just feel when I think about it in my soul, it just lights up, and like really look at it from a really broad scale and then pare it down. And I was we added a new exercise this year, so you can, like, if you digitally put your words in there, you can reorganize them so it's like easier. And I at like 11:30 last night, I was like, but that kind of goes with that. And that is here. And I was like dissecting everything. And then, of course, in the shower this morning, I was like, oh, those are the words. Got it.
I just downloaded.
Yes.
Oh, this is so fun. I mean,
Yes.
explain to people a little bit, if people haven't fully started or maybe they are like just I'm about to like just fully dig in today actually, like
Yeah.
pre and this week. Like
Yeah.
just give us a little bit of an overview, not of what they're doing, but what you think the real punch points are so far from last week and
Mm.
this week that are like gonna
So,
make the difference.
yeah. So the biggest thing with the pre-week is making sure that you have a moment of intentionality. Like I went on a hike and sort of did my commitment to myself where I was like, we're in this portal. We're in this next 6 weeks. Like I'm going to show up. I'm going to go through all the exercises. I'm going to grab an accountability this year. I usually choose Daniel, and he is on a different timeline than I'm on when we go through the challenge, so it's never really keeping us accountable. I was like, I'm going to find someone who's going to go through day after day, and I'm really just going to commit. And I do the challenge every year, but it was just like an extra level of like awareness with myself. Um,
Yeah.
so that's huge. Finding that accountability buddy. We have an Instagram post on this where everyone's tagging what city they're from. We have the community group where you can connect with people. I told people just invite your friends in, have them join with our sale. Like, have them, you're already close with them, you feel safe with them. Like, what a perfect person to go through it with. And then for week one, the biggest points I think are just so important to take away. That inventory, I think, is really going to set up between the growth inventory and the challenges you face this year, is going to set up who you are authentically, what has kind of shaken off, what lessons you're supposed to be learning, and it's going to prime you for crafting your list next week. Like everything you need to have digested is going to be done in that week one, including authentic code. So when you craft the list next week, you're like, oh, I know who I am right now in this season of life. I know where I want to go. I've seen to believe that it's possible for growth and expansion because I did it last year. Okay, let's go. It's a fun week.
I know it's so even when I was like looking over it and I was like, this is like what my Capricorn loves. It's also, I think, and I said this on stories, it's the exercise that everybody's looking for at the end of the year. It really is,
Mhm.
when we're reflecting and we're really wanting to do a year overview and see how we grown, what do we want to change next year, etc. This is what you're looking for, but it's actually one that's going to propel you to manifest. So I think it's phenomenal.
Oh, so exciting. And then any tips on authentic code? Because I know that one is like one that people have questions on every year.
Yeah, I think like from an energetic standpoint, something that's so important to keep in mind, which I really loved about you, how you were geeking out on it. It's not so much the word, it's like the what the meaning of the word anchors
Mhm.
behind it. So it's the same with everything in manifestation, right? It's all frequency based, but everything we do here is we try to make it tangible and step by step. So it's like when I'm saying family moments and memories or experiences, it's like the richness we're creating together as a family. What will Teddy's memories be? What will my memories be? So it's
Mhm.
really getting into that energy beneath it. When I look at financing and investing being one of them, it's not like to be wealthy or any of that. It's I gamify it. It's fun to me. I love
Mhm.
that I'm a woman who cares and is interested and is able to do that. So it's really like getting down what's the energy beneath it, like get into that frequency, understand it, and like you did, really crystallize what that is.
So true. I think a lot of times, and I was definitely guilty of this, like before I even joined the team and was doing like authentic code from the outside, it would be what I thought I wanted to be.
Yeah,
Right?
you
Like it was
Daniel used to do that, you said too, right?
Like, it
Yeah,
was so rooted in, "Oh, I think I should be this," and it's usually for external validation or to be loved or belonging or connection, whatever it was, and I look at those early words, like, I was looking back at my first thing, and I was like, "Oh, this was so, like, not from an authentic place," like, parts of it were, but I wasn't hitting, like, the real, note, like you said, like, it wasn't
yeah.
the note of what that feeling or sensation was. And it's interesting. So like one of my early words, for example, was boss babe. I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I like business and strategy and this and that and like all doing all these things." And I was like, "Ugh, that's like a persona.
Yeah,
Like I don't want a
100%.
persona. I don't want to embody a an an archetype of person. Like what actually interests me about that?" And now this year, it's innovation. It's like how do we
That's
take
great.
like big ideas and iterate them and make them better, and how do we move people along, and how do we curate different concepts together and bring them forth in a new way. Like that to me is so exciting.
I love
Um
it. And
and
with that, you're gonna be, like, such a more interesting boss babe than you ever would have been, you know what I 'cause I think of one of your big expanders whom I don't actually follow or listen to the podcast, but my sisters endlessly told me about her podcast. Alex Cooper's her name, is that
yes,
right?
yep.
When I think of her and, like, any photos I've seen of her, I don't go, "Oh, boss babe." I
Mhm,
look at her and I go, "Oh, that was just a woman who, like, is so honest and was
mhm,
creative about the shit she wanted to talk about and didn't hold back." Like,
mhm.
I think it's so important what we're talking about is, like, getting to the authentic frequency beneath it, because most likely it has nothing to do with the ego.
Yeah.
And, like, what I see when people are the most successful, not just monetarily or career or anything, but like in love and friendship and design or whatever, it's that energy beneath it, that fire, that
Mhm.
excitement. Like you're saying, that innovation, that passion, that's what creates the things that when you walk around and you're like, oh, that person's a this or a that, that's what you're actually drawn to. So it's like being able to understand that frequency beneath it.
Yeah. Oh, so true. And it's funny too, because like I thought back in that authentic self DI of my inner child, and I thought about like the Disney Imagineers. And I remember going to Epcot as a kid and they were talking about like space and what they could do here. And I remember my mind was just like, whoa, like the world in which I knew it was like exponentially grown
Yeah.
after that moment. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And so that Imagineers sort of concept is baked into that innovation. So it's like, even as a little kid, I was like, the world can be bigger and expand and learn
Yeah.
new things. It's so interesting.
So inspiring. I love it. I just love it. Such good, like creative, juicy energy.
And nothing to do with a pantsuit.
Literally nothing. Like, if that comes with it, great, but that's not what you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just so yeah, I love that discernment because I think a lot of people manifest how they think they should be manifesting, obvious, but
Mhm.
even the ones that I think are like, "Oh, I've done the work. I'm connected with myself." There's still this element of manifesting like, I have in the newsletter coming out for the week of
Mm.
the
This
list?
week, I think.
Is it this week, right? Because
Mhm.
it's this
Yeah.
is gonna be the, the
Kickoff.
prequel to the week. But it was like that's like the little shift I've had this year where I was like, whoa, up until I had that self expansion in summer where I was like, I've manifested everything I've ever asked for. It let me
Mm,
stop and go, okay, wait, that's interesting. And then as we're going through this challenge and I'm looking ahead and seeing, the exercises, I'm like, this is going to be the first year I wasn't even super aware of this, where I'm not manifesting for security ever again. Because like
whoa.
that there's always been an element underneath things. It's been to be secure, to to make sure things are taken care of, or this or that, to be safe, etc. I'm
Mhm.
manifesting completely from my authentic self's heart from here on out. Like that's it. So it's just understanding those shifts in this work as you continue it, as you peel the layers, that we're not even sometimes aware that we're manifesting. I think of a friend of mine who, like, her FU fund really ran out. She has a family and she'll probably be manifesting this year abundance, but not from the right place, just from
Mm,
security. So kind of
mm,
like the boss babe mentality.
mhm,
I'm going to do it's like this outside perspective instead of holy shit, the universe is giving me this opportunity of like what totally lights me up, and if I follow these steps, the universe is going to literally hand me that thing that then
mm.
abundance comes with it. So it's just such an interesting tiny shift, but it makes a big, big difference.
I was gonna ask you about that. I really loved that in the newsletter when I was reading it before we were prepping to go live for it, and it really got me thinking of like, wow, how many things have I called in to get to sort of like that baseline
Of
of
safety.
security and safety in my
Yeah.
mind. And someone asked me today, they were like, oh, when I was going through my authentic code, like some of the words I know my inner child wants on there, and some of
Mhm.
them my adult self wants on there. Like, which one should I be letting guide me? And I'm curious your thoughts on it, but my gut feeling was like kind of both.
I
Because
think
I
so
think
too.
I think until you have that baseline of safety security, like yes, your friend could absolutely, follow that route and that is an option, but if she's like I have to provide for my family, there's no other like I have to get
Yeah.
this money first, then their route to getting there is going to be like, okay, let's cover the baseline security and then we can dream up the next vision. Like sometimes it has to be that sort of stepping stone.
Well, the way that I sort of look at it when you were asking it just from a like straight up energetic standpoint is you can't also fake where you're not at, right? Like, so
Mm,
those parts of your inner child haven't fully integrated with this authentic expanded self yet that is your true self. So it's like obviously they're going to still be on there. They're still going to be, sorry, my dog scratching to come be a part of this. They're still going to be an element of them,
mm,
so it's like I think honoring that and letting yourself know that this year that those are going to be some keynotes of where the healing still lies.
mm. That makes so much sense because one of the ones I had home on there last year, but I was like, what is the energy behind home? Like, yes, I like looking up houses and interior design and all that stuff and self care, but like, what is the root? And I realized it was soothing vibes is really what it come
Oh,
down to.
yeah,
And
because
then
you
it's
mentioned like when you walk into a hotel you want
mhm.
that. It's
Yes.
that, it's like
Yes.
that feeling of like, ah, everything's fine and it's well lit and it's like it's cozy and it feels elevated and clean, and like
Mm.
I totally get what you're saying with that.
That is 1,000% it, and I think so much of it does connect to my inner child who's like, "Ugh, I didn't necessarily feel like I had that growing up, and so I really wanna curate spaces that I feel like I have that, so I can give energy to, my innovation bucket or any of the other parts of my code." And it's like, I'm not trying to rush that process, like, I'm not there yet. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel soothed fully, so it's like, "Okay, let's put that on there, let's honor that, let's look at that," and all of those pieces.
I love it. It's just like I love the tremendous amount of self-awareness you're having during the challenge, and I hope that that's inspiring other people to just get so honest. Like
Yeah.
no matter what you need right now, let's get honest with what your authentic self wants. Like
Mm,
that's And I know, like, even getting back to that point of like where my friend's at versus what she needs for survival, the universe doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
like the more she can connect with what her authentic self is like calling to connect with
Mm.
while expanding, while bridging, while doing all the things, it's just going to be a more linear line. So I love like the tremendous amount of honesty that you're getting to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the greatest tool in manifestation.
It's true. That's how you get to that self-awareness piece, like we were talking
Totally.
about in the last episode.
Agreed, agreed. It's so funny what's coming up for me now, like with it would be since like the eclipse, the mid eclipses into these last eclipses into this last new moon in
Mm.
Scorpio. And
Mhm.
what's really coming up for me, it's like this reemergence of who I was at 30. It's like
Mm.
that person who was just like so creative, so scrappy, just so curious, and it's so interesting. And so this is really emerging, and there's like this death that's happening around it,
Mm.
of freedom that's coming with it. Like there was this moment yesterday where I really had this feeling of I give up towards all of these resistant things in my life, where it was like,
Mhm.
wait, I'm going to take all my power back and I just give up. Like, I don't, fuck it, universe, you take care of it because I don't give a
Mhm.
shit. And it's so funny because after all of it, who knows what this will look like this year and through this challenge, but it feels like a paring down is happening. And like, as we
Mm.
talk about the inner child, like I had to manifest a lot of these things my inner child needed to feel healed, to feel safe, to feel secure. And now it's like my authentic self is really starting to reemerge, not needing those things, and wanting to pare down and wanting to get gritty and creative. So it's really interesting. I'll see how
Oh,
that comes about.
I love that. I'm curious if anyone else felt that with all these eclipses coming up, because that was something that it feel like it finally cleared when we actually went on the speaking tour to Vancouver. Like before, it felt like not a pressure cooker, but it was like, oh,
Mm,
like more so much control. And
yeah.
then finally I was like, wait a second. I'm co-creating any situation that I'm in. So like,
Same.
why do I want to have such a rigid mindset on how this has to look and blah blah? Like, I'm not gonna same thing. Like, fuck it. I
Yeah.
I let it go. Like
Yeah, like
I'm
your email,
releasing
your
control.
newsletter.
Mhm. Like
Yeah,
I'm letting it go. It is not my like I will um know when to do what I need to do. I know when I need to find our new home. Like that will come in with ease. Like I don't need to be like did I miss the listing on Zillow today? Like no, it's not going to nothing comes through like that for me. It comes
totally.
through in the most like magical kismet ways. Like why am I gripping on this thing or even our
Yeah.
wedding venue where
Yeah.
like uh-oh, should we be like super diligent in planning? I'm like, it doesn't feel good right now. So fuck it.
Mhm.
We'll find it when we find it and it'll be great. It's
Yeah,
like
have you when you do the work on it too, has it been coming up sorry, this is like we can get into people's questions, but has moving been coming up curiously?
so
Like out
big.
of LA, I mean.
Not yet out of
Okay.
LA, I don't think. Unless it was like the opportunity would have to drop and we'd be like, "Oh my gosh." Kind of like the dog manifestation where like
Yeah.
it doesn't look how we thought it was going to look, but this is literally every single thing on our list.
Yeah.
Um we're still looking in LA, but we're like at the max of our crab shell and like that soothing vibes. I'm like we have to just be like thank you home for being there for us for this long. It was so lovely, but we are so
Yeah.
ready, you
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah, and Theo's helping that push big
Oh
time.
yeah, Theo's literally ripping up every corner of every carpet, so there's no option.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna be pushed out of the bird's nest.
Yeah, we're like, thank God we were here first because if we got into a brand new spot and he
I
started
know.
ripping everything,
I
I'd be
know.
going crazy.
Manic, completely manic, completely. Well,
So,
should we answer
yeah,
these cues? Sorry,
yeah,
my
let's
pup started barking, so
oh, no
that's
worries. Okay, so guys, I'm just prefacing. We have like 600 or some odd questions at this point. So we're going to try to get to the ones that are thumbs up the most. So if you guys don't know when you submit a question, just take a little gander and see if any of the questions already in there are the essence of what you're asking. And if you thumbs up that question, it's easier for us to see. I'll pull some from the recent section too, but just so you know, for any future live calls. Okay, so the top thumbs up question with 200 thumbs up. I'm manifesting aligned expander friends. And when I meet people like this, I'm so intimidated and insecure that I sabotage. As a kid, I was bullied and unpopular.
Mm.
No question, but I guess they're asking how to navigate.
Yeah, I've actually I understand this so well. I have this even to this day. Um, God, it's so multifolded, if that's how I say that word. Because the more that we unblock and integrate, the more ease that will come with that. But how do I put this? Like, even to this day, I still have, even with like the amount of success I've received, the equality of where I'm at with the
Mm.
people that used to serve as like massive expanders when I was first starting out. I still have elements. I think they're so cool that I
Yeah.
still have elements where I'm like, and I think about this like even Amanda Chantel Bacon, who's like a dear friend and someone who I even worked for like briefly doing social media for way back when. But when I'm in her presence, I'm like, you are so witty and intelligent and interesting, and like her masculinity and sexuality, I'm just like, I'm so intimidated by that. I mean, I can hold my own and we're great, but I
Yeah.
and because I feel, how do I feel? I feel so grateful in that moment because of like the healing I've done when I'm in the presence of people like that, where it doesn't come up to the point where I'm like nervous and self-sabotaging anymore. What comes up from it at this point, because of the level of unblocking, is um God, it's so rad that there are people that make me feel this still, like that inspire me,
Mm,
that stretch me. So I
mm,
think like the real work here is really starting to unblock that those bullying experiences. And I will say that certain people will start to come into your life that you would naturally maybe feel this way with, but because they're so nice and so humble and lovely, it'll be such an inviting environment that you'll be able to operate normally, and they're going to expand you in the way that you'll start to outgrow the nerves, the self-sabotaging. So I think the work really lies in working on that unblocking. It's not, I don't feel like it's this deep level of like taking them off of a pedestal or any, and I think that that work is really important, but I think it's really like the more that one unblocks and gains self confidence through who they're becoming and starts to have little expanders come through that naturally they'd feel very intimidated by, but are so warm and lovely that they're starting to go, oh, this is okay. It will naturally dissipate and it'll naturally
mm.
become inspiring and great. So, trusting the process is what I would say from my personal experience going through this.
Yeah. That's so relatable that you share that example because I think so many people, myself included, definitely, like, there's definitely people that we all have that with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this person asked about, I was bullied as a kid, unpopular. I think sometimes we recognize qualities in those expander people that are similar to our bullies. And so part of it is like a shit, am I going to be cast out from the group?
Yeah.
Are you going to see that I'm not like you and I'm going to repeat that bullying unpopular experience? But this is your opportunity, especially if these are safe, warm, inviting people, to heal that wounding that those bullies caused as a kid. And one of the exercises in week 3 is really looking at like, okay, we have our expanders to show us that those are elements of ourselves we want to embody deeper. Like we want
Mhm.
to tap into our version of that, not copycatting them, but what's our authentic version of that. And then also take a moment and be like, wait a second, there are likely things about my expander that I might have or look like or express in my life that maybe they don't have like that. And I'm so like grateful and thankful for those differences because everyone is so authentic and unique that even if you're like, wow, they have all these things, it's like, yeah, but like I have all these other things that make me who I am that like nobody else could touch.
Yeah.
So it's like tapping into that sensation when you're around people because there isn't um one type of popular kid, contrary to what all schooling systems tend to create,
in
you know?
media, yeah.
Mhm. Like, think about I mean, one cool kinda exercise is, like, think about who the popular kids were in your school growing up. Like, what was
You
the
wanna
art
really do an exercise, think about where they are
Yeah. That too.
now.
Think, like, who did you look up to in grade school? What about them? And would you even value those characteristics now? Like, think of your evolution with it. Um, I don't know. There's a lot to dig in there, but it's really cool that you're finding expanders in this.
And it's just like it's a really clear path of work forward, which is so nice
Mhm.
because I know a lot of the questions usually feel very abstract with the work, and that's not. That's like it just takes time, but it's a clear path of work forward.
Yeah. Okay, this is another big question. We have answered this a lot, but for all of our new people, because we have so many this season, not good at recalling childhood memories. How do
Mm.
I get around this come time for the DIs?
I'm gonna let you take it. You've done so much research on this, Jessica, and I feel like we've had
Yes.
Dr. Tara answer this. So yeah, you take it clinically speaking.
Yes. So really it's not even about the memories are very helpful, but it's almost like the reason we even want to tap into the memories is because we want to tap into the sensation beneath the memory.
And the
So it's
emotion.
So it's not so much just, oh, I need this very specific memory and have to unhook all these things. It's what emotional sensation came up around something that happened in my childhood. And so if you don't have the memory, it's like the body keeps a score. Your body still has the emotional sensation in memory. So think about what you're triggered if you don't have a root to, well, I don't have a memory in childhood. What is the sensation in your body and emotional experience that's coming up around that trigger or block? Because even if you don't have the memory to connect it to, you feel where you feel uncomfortable and work with that sensation instead of a specific visual
And
memory.
trust that which is coming up, that emotion. So even if you're like nervous and you're like, I don't feel any, just relax and trust. Just let the first thing that's coming up in what part of your body, what emotion is attached to it, and just trust that and go with it. And the more you can relax and trust and go with that, being in your parasympathetic, doing the safety DIs before those calming DIs, the more that communication is going to be live, and just trust and know it's going to become clearer and clearer and clearer as you're going, even if the memories aren't popping up.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm even thinking for the unblock DI when it's like, okay, let's reprogram this memory. What you can do down there is comfort, just visualize your inner child, whatever age feels like it needs attention at that moment. You don't have to be in a specific memory with them, but just comfort that inner child experiencing those fearful sensations or
Totally.
whatever emotion is coming
That
up.
takes it deeper for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, a lot of bullying stuff. Okay, I'm manifesting growth for my business, but I have a recent trauma around cancellation bullying I can't shake. I'm afraid to be seen, and now my business is stuck.
Been there. Probably the best experience of my life, really, at the end of the day, because what it gave me, and I hope that whomever has experienced this understands and hears this, it's painful. It's so much trauma to work through. But the more that one can lean, the more that one can really work through the rock bottom workshop outside of this
Mm,
challenge, after this challenge is done, which is where that's where any of those workshops came from. Up level, rock bottom, and rut was from that experience for me. It was like the best thing to channel through at that moment. The more that one can work through that, understand, and it takes so much time to come through, the more that nobody can ever put you through that experience again, because you
mm,
realize what bullshit it is. So it's like now, if anyone tries to DM me some or what, it's like, oh, like it's so funny. Like anybody, I'm like the worst tree to be barking up in any way, shape, or form, because I have zero tolerance or bandwidth for it. But I will say, a lot of comfort comes from talking to people who have gone through that experience, and I think the more that we can become very clear about who we are, our intentions, how we're showing up in the world, um, clearly and beautifully is what's going to help support that experience. But the rock bottom workshop was literally created for this.
Mm, I think too. Oh man, I had a really good thought on this and now it's escaped me. Um, there's a lot of um feelings when things like this happen, especially when people get canceled or there's bullying or online bullying or digital bullying, of like, I'm bad. Like a core wound of like,
Mhm.
uh-oh, they saw that I'm bad or I'm wrong or I made a mistake, and that mistake is unforgivable. It
And gonna
erases,
cost me everything.
yeah, it's going to cost me everything and I'm never going to recover and all of that. It's like the worst case scenario takes over and spirals out. And I think the beauty in those moments is that you can have compassion for yourself and be like, okay, if I did make a mistake, I'm still lovable. I'm still
Mhm.
okay. Or maybe I didn't make a mistake. I just don't align with this person. Or and that's okay. We have differences and I can honor them, and it's okay if they don't like me. It's okay to not be liked by everyone. Like sitting with that is so like, yeah, okay, sure, it's okay to not be liked by anyone until you're not liked by someone very loudly. And then you're like, okay, it's okay to not be liked by anyone. Like, you
Yeah.
really have to sit with it and kind of be your protective parent to come in and say, like, let's work through all the emotion going on here. Um, because it can feel so destabilizing, but
Mhm.
don't, like this person said, I'm afraid to be seen. Right now, you're afraid to be seen, especially if something happened, right? But your work is going to be to nurture yourself, like heal anything that's going on there, take a look at any other situations going on that you may need to address, and step through the fear to be seen, because you hiding doesn't actually solve the problem. Like, you hiding doesn't actually keep you safe. Like you said, my business is stuck. It keeps you stuck. So don't like give your power away in that situation. Reflect if there's something that you need to reflect on, learn if there's something you need to learn, integrate and comfort yourself, and then step through the fear to be seen again.
Yeah, there's a reason that you're being called into to being visible after this.
Yeah. It's tough work, I'll tell you. It is
Tough
tough work.
work. And if you haven't been through it, oh boy, it's like such an initiation until you're on the other side. It is so deep and so traumatic.
Mm, but you got this.
Got this.
um okay. Can you expand on the energetic of not good enough? I feel like this is the root of my blocks, but I'm unsure how to unblock it further. Lots of childhood trauma.
Hmm. I'll let you take it just.
Yeah, I kind of okay. So there's like a lot of ways you can approach it, but I think in terms of going through this challenge, and this is something that we've said a lot during this, but how is not good enough presenting right now? Like, maybe don't worry about like all the ways you don't feel good enough in your life, right? Because that might be a laundry list of infinity. um but what tests are popping up that are mirroring not good enough? Not good enough at what? At career, in relationship, in this, like, what ways are you getting that mirrored back to you? Because it's not usually a universal not enoughness. It's, I'm not enough until I have this, or I'm not good enough until I, demonstrate that, or am seen like this. Like, there's a contingency almost with it. So it's like, get to the root of what that block is and start unblocking and doing the inner child work with that piece. That would be my advice.
Hmm. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think whenever we look at something and we're like, ah, I have so much to work on, that's when we can paralyze and stop doing the work. But like
Mhm.
you're saying, just what's directly mirroring you in this moment, allow that to be the thing that takes you into the DI, the focus of this challenge, etc. One foot in front of the other, you'll just knock it out step by step by step by step, instead of seeing it as just this huge undertaking that I'm so broken or
Yeah.
I'm so not good enough, because it's not true.
It's so not true. And even just speaking, because they also asked about the energetic of it, like I guess maybe where it comes from. Like truly, I mean, it can come from a million different sources, but essentially it's at some point you learned that you weren't good enough compared um to receive the things that you needed in childhood, right? In
Mhm,
order to
mhm.
receive the love that you desired, the nurturing and the safety, the security, that if you were somehow more or good enough or better, then you would receive those things. Completely untrue, but that's our child brain trying to protect ourselves and adapt for survival. And all
Mhm.
it is um like debunking that belief that was in
Yeah,
there.
100%.
Okay. Um, for the new people, should they take one specific thing through on their manifestation list, or should they take their whole list, every item in general, through every step?
I mean, I will let you speak to what you think. You obviously you and Ali really crafted this, but um I personally think when I cast what I want onto my list from macro to minor, major to minor, um, and I'm going through the challenge, I'm not totally going through the challenge solely based on what I'm calling in. I'm
Mm,
more so going, this is a personal experience. I'm more so going through the challenge, looking at all of the things like my authentic self, looking at all expanders, like all the things we're going to address in it. And yes, I start to see the correlation between some of the more major things I'm calling in, like the more prominent things, but it's a lot more about self-discovery, unblocking, expansion, crystallizing, getting clear, knowing that exactly what we just said, what we're needing is going to start mirroring and coming in front of
mm,
me of how I'm supposed to address these manifestations that are on the list that I've cast, because that's
mm.
how the universe works. The moment you put that out there, it's orbiting you, and the universe is going to start to push the things in front of you that you need to address. So I actually don't go through it with that level of control. When I cast the list, of course, those things are softly, I have awareness of them, and there's direction, but it's not every single step I'm doing it in ratio to what I'm calling in. What about you when you're doing it?
I've done it in previous years both ways. So I've done it where it's like I'm just addressing everything coming up. And then last year, I feel like I had three major manifestations, and I was like, okay, what are the blocks for this one? The expanders for this one, line action test. Like I had everything very kind of siloed. And like one of them brought me into like a rock bottom with it because the amount of control I had.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but it's interesting because I think I'm trying to think how to say this. So I think the the best way to navigate is sort of like a balance between the two. It's like you want to get clear on who your expanders are in relation to your manifestation,
Yeah.
right? Because you need to understand that piece. You want to understand what tests and triggers are presenting in regards to each of your manifestations. But your pings, your aligned action,
Your
and
authentic
even
self.
yeah, even some of your unblocking is going to kind of blanket coverage all of your manifestations. Like they're going to be connected on some level. And it's interesting. I think I was rock bottom in one. It wasn't right after the challenge. It was a couple months later. But it was more of an emotional rock bottom, and it was, I think, because I had such a tight grip of control of like it has to look this way without being like why does it have to look that way? Can I release the control a little bit? And when I did, I actually got manifestations in all three of my major categories.
Mm,
So it was like
yeah.
there was such a lesson that I needed to go on in that journey. This is a long-winded way of saying you can take one or multiple through.
Yeah, and I would say a little bit of advice, I wouldn't focus on more than 3.
Yeah.
And no more than 2 being, like, major big ones, because that's a lot, especially if you're new to this. It's just if you don't feel the flow of manifestation yet, like, you don't it doesn't feel like silk, it feels
Mhm.
like I got to do it. Like you're just trying to figure out the formula. If you're new, if you're definitely advanced, you've been doing this for 4 years, you've manifested, your trust muscle's really strong. You can do whatever you want, really. But if you're new, like I'd focus on one big, one medium or small. Otherwise, it feels overwhelming, like a lot of things to hold at once and get right at once and figure out at once, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. That's kind of what I say, like one big one for new people, and then like I've taken 3, I haven't taken more than that before, so that seems like a good
Yeah,
rule of
just to
thumb.
like, because I know when we first get into something, we're like so pumped and we want, you know what I mean? But that can backfire. It really can't. And yeah, I guess that's why I'm a little more loose with things because I've learned over the years, like, to just be loose with the universe, clear on the anchors that matter that are inside the formula, clear on the list, clear on my authentic code, clear on my expanders, clear on unblocking. But it's not, there's a looseness to it for sure of allowing what's showing up in my life to determine the work that I'm doing.
Love it. Releasing that control.
Really giving up, just giving up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Let it go.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay. I'm trying to manifest my dream life, but it's not the same as my partner's, which I feel like is holding me back from manifesting mine. Help.
I think in these experiences, you need expanders of people who have figured out in relationship of how to both achieve their dream life and meet in the middle. So Max's dream life looks very different than my dream life. It always has since we've been together. Many elements are connected. That's why we're together. But I personally could live in Scotland half the year. He has no interest whatsoever. This place where we're at in Mendocino is the compromise of it, but I don't think it will ever have quenched the Scotland thing that I will do eventually. Max lives to work. He's a Virgo. It is his everything. I am much more, especially since having Teddy, working to live. Like I don't like to me, it's only when I'm lit up, I'm creative, and like I have perspective on that. We're very different of what the dream looks like. And the beautiful thing is, who did I figure this out from early on? I've always had expanders around this. Like Max and I aren't married. There's never been like this big force or rush in it because I had a lot of expanders of partners and I liked those.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, two people are here because they want to be. My ex's parents being one of them. They've been together for like his mom and her partner for 18 years and they're just partners. I loved it about a lot of celebrities that I followed. Look at what happened when Brad and Brad and Angelina got married. It didn't go well, man. Not to say that getting married is, for me and my trauma, like I've always had perspective on the things that work. And then I don't know where I picked this up from, but when I had the forest house before Teddy, Max and I monthly would go 2 weeks where I was up there and he was down, and we were just like filling our cups. And we have such a safe, secure relationship. Like there's no fear of cheating and like he's so driven by work, and I'm so driven by spirituality and stuff. Like none of us are looking. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
there's that level of safety. So I guess what I'm trying to say and help be an expander in this, whatever your version of a dream life looks like versus your partner, you guys need to find that individuality where you're able to come together and find the compromises and the gaps that really make it dreamy for both of you. If
Mhm.
one person's completely settling and the other person's getting all of their needs met, it's just never going to work, in my opinion. It
Mhm.
never will work. And I do think there's a way to figure out both and come together.
Yeah, I think about I have a friend who one partner wants to live in New York or San Francisco, and one is like, I'm going to be in LA. I'm locked. I'm here. Like, this is where my career is, all the things. And they're at like how do we compromise on this? How do we make that work? And I think one key piece of that is exactly what you said. It can't be like, okay, cool. Well, the other person has to give up their dream completely and compromise because it doesn't work, otherwise. There's other solutions. Maybe people are in part of one coast part of the year. I mean, Lacy, like you're a great expander for that. You live in one area during one part of the year and another area another part of the year. Like what are those other compromises so each person can feel like they can get their needs met, especially if you're like, this is my person, this is the person I want to be with right now. It feels like a good, healthy, safe relationship. How can we come together on that? And I will say there will definitely be a part of your inner child that will come up and be like, no, I'm not settling. My needs matter. Like, I'm not giving in. Compromising with your dream partner isn't settling. Getting to a compromise that feels fair for both of you
Yeah.
is not settling. I think that's important to call out too.
Yeah, you'll learn about that in the archetypes, the discerner. But even just getting back and just to help people expand, this is just one little variation of what partners can go through, where you're like, one could live on one coast, they could live on one coast and then another, like let's just say that's one of the determining factors. Even if financially you're like, oh, we're so not there, that's not an option. I have friends that aren't, and they house swap. They found like an
Mm,
amazing other couple where they can literally swap houses and live on different coasts, and they work remotely. So it's just like there are creative solutions to figure it out if this is your person. Like
mm.
if there's a will, there's a way.
What about the question that followed it up right after was pretty much the same one except for financial. Like they feel like they want full financial freedom. They're ready to have that life, but their partner is not there yet.
Yeah, so this is one, it's so fascinating because like when I first started dating, I've had this conversation actually with one of Max's really close family friends who she's in a position where, because of her family and background, she's like extremely, extremely secure. And her partner's a woodworker, he's a carpenter, and she like reached out to me and Max, and she's like, how did you guys deal with this? Because Max comes from an extremely privileged background. And when we first got together, I was literally like, should I start this thing called manifestation that I know? You know what I mean? I had nothing, literally nothing. And I think I was using a credit card of my mom's. And like what I explained to her, when you're manifesting and you're really following things, you are going to become abundant. Like if you're really following this method and you're following the pings and you're going the way, you will become abundant in the way that's authentic to you, that feels good. And I think something that's really interesting now is Max and I, like, I'm more abundant than he is in a lot of ways. I've invested really well. He puts a lot of his money into his company, into his companies. I'm just have a very different financial mindset. And so I think the interesting thing here is, and we talked about this in Vancouver, is the universe is your bank, not your partner. And if your
Mm,
partner, it's going to take them longer, but it's your person, you need to come to a place with, are you comfortable being more successful than your person or not? We also touched on this in an episode recently with Janelle, when I don't know when this one's going to air, but it's like getting out of the ego of
mm,
what you think your partner has to have. So it's
mhm,
like what she talked about. She gave the example of a friend of hers who, when it was time for her to look for a new partner, she was really successful and has a book and has a brand and has a thing, and was like, I have to meet someone who's right here with me and has all the stuff and the following and the whatever. And she did, and she got extremely burnt. And then she went online again and started dating. And she found in her person works with his hands. He's in a completely different sphere. And I think that that actually is really complimenting and works for couples extremely well when you have that
mm,
balance. But every couple's different, their energy's different. And if you're like, in my past relationship, it would have never worked. And I say this lovingly, but like he smoked pot every day and drank a glass of whiskey every night, if not three. So, like him never becoming successful would have never worked. But like a Max and I do, because we serve each other in such different ways and we show up for each other in such different ways. So it's kind of getting clear first on, is this your person? And can you move to the mindset that's like, fuck it, then I'm going to be the great shebang, and I'm happy to support things a little bit more.
mm. Yeah, I love that you mentioned too. It's not just okay, are they at where you want to be financially right now? It's like, what does everything else look like?
Yes.
Is their
Yes.
lifestyle aligned? Are their goals and ambitions for their own future aligned? Like, no, they don't have to be as ambitious of you, but do they have a passion for what they're doing? If that's important to you, like really looking at all of those pieces, I think then it's like, okay, clearly we're aligned and now we just have to make these compromises as we're moving forward, or can we draft up, this is your dream life, can you draft up a different possibility,
Yeah.
where you're maybe the primary financial caretaker of the family, and maybe you
Yeah.
didn't think you wanted that, or maybe you wanted someone fully aligned, but like if you had all your financial needs met, what does it matter? And you're doing something you love, what does it matter
Mhm.
that it's coming from you or your partner or both?
Yeah, and honestly, when I know when I say that it's really confusing to people. I'm like, the universe is your partner, the universe is your bank. But like when I really shifted to understanding the universe is my bank. Real estate's not
Mhm.
my bank. To be magnetic's not my bank. None of that stuff is my bank. The universe is my bank. That is who I'm working with. That's who I'm dancing with all of the time. My partner's not my bank. I had been raised and programmed to marry first for money, second for love. Like I had been,
Mm,
there's so much programming that money will always come from my partner. And I did such a shift after my ex relationship that I was like, the universe is my partner. The money will always come from the universe, you know? So it's like
mm,
when you get to that place, the universe always provides and it shows up for you and in the ways that your partner can't financially. So exactly what you're saying, like becoming comfortable with the fact that the universe will always be your benefactor. It's never going to come from your partner's job and whatever, whatever, whatever. If this is, again, the right partnership, everybody's needs are being met in different ways.
mhm. I love it. Okay, I think we have time for like maybe one or two more questions. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. If I'm manifesting a six-figure business, should I be focusing on six-figure business or smaller manifestations to get me there?
Focusing on the six-figure business is never going to get you to the six-figure business, in my
Okay, talk about
opinion.
that.
It
Yeah.
never will. It never will. As you continue to expand and become successful, and you're like at, almost to six figures and you go, I'm ready to take it to six figures, that's a different thing. It's like expanding and
Mm,
manifesting to that next level, but
mhm,
setting out to be like, this money title blah blah blah, it's never going to get you there. The
mm,
thing that's going to get you there is literally the manifestation process. So like your subconscious doesn't really work with, well, this person makes 3 million, I'm going to make 3 million, because it's such a big gap possibly from where somebody is. Again, if you're so close, you're making 2.8 million and you want
mhm.
3, or whatever the thing is, just
Right.
for example, that's easy to expand into. But when did we have that episode that we could link here, that we talk about like, I'm going to become a blogger to make it's
I
so
think it
we
was our
really break it
financial
down.
freedom one.
Yeah, I think we really break it down in there where that's not the thing that's going to lead to the six figures ever. It's going to be the unblocking necessary, the expanding necessary, and the aligned action necessary that's going to get you there. And like how we were talking about in the beginning, Jessica and I, it's getting to the frequency beneath rather than
Mm,
what does six figures represent to you?
mhm,
What's that level of security
mhm,
or whatever that is to you, or whatever somebody making that their life reflects to you? Like get beneath that. And this is really a good topic and conversation before we go into the list, because we talk about that a lot. Like get down to the core. Why are you asking something in? And it's like
mhm,
um the six figures represent, because everything in manifestation is theory. Everything we do at this brand is we try to take frequency and theory and make it into tangibility, because theory is hard to wrap your brain around. You can't see
mhm,
it, you can't feel it until you really understand it. And so the six figures, that just represents something to your
mhm,
ego. But beneath it, you need to start asking, what does it represent?
mhm,
Maybe to somebody, it represents, at that point, wherever I live, I can put the down payment on a house. Oh,
mhm,
so what you're really calling in is a house. So it's like,
mhm,
keep asking, dig deeper, because the six figures actually not the thing. And then when you go, oh, I'm really calling in a house, why? Just like Jessica did.
mhm,
I'm calling in this feeling, this thing. Oh, that's going to be the thing that leads to the six figures. So I
mhm.
hope that's trackable and people understand that the six figure call in is never going to be the thing.
Yeah. And I think just kind of reiterating what you were saying too, um, or like breaking it down. So if it's okay, it's not bad to put a number goal on your list. if that number is like the next level of where you're at right now, you're like, okay, I want to take this up a notch, take this up a level. So I'm right below six figures and I just want to break that barrier in the next year because I can do XYZ with my business once I hit that goal, right? But if you are making, let's say, $50 in your business right now and you're like, I want to make six figures in the next, 6 months or 6 to 12 months, that's when it's like, okay, is this one of those unrealistic manifestations? Because if we're making 50, we're really far away. I mean, usually people will be like, I want to be a multi-million dollar business. Great, but you're making no money in your business at all right now. Putting that on your list is actually going to like deter your process of getting there. Not to say you won't get there. You absolutely can if it's authentic, but it's almost like deterring your process because there's so many pieces in between that you need to like level up to in order to get there. So instead of putting that grandiose thing on there, break down the essence beneath it. Why? Like, what is the feeling, and what do you want that money for? And I would even ask, what does like getting to six figures in your business represent, like the feeling, the process of getting there? Because you can have a number goal, but if you had to get there and that meant you had to work 100 hours a week and got no sleep and your health went to the wayside, but you got that number, is that how you want that to feel? Like, do you want to be motivated by your work and excited and lit up and allowing it to generate revenue? Like, get a little bit more clear about what you're really calling within that number goal.
Yeah, agreed. And just understanding what your authentic self is asking for beneath and why. Like why what does the six figures represent to you? Like
Mhm.
that represents something doesn't mean it's bad or good, but the more you can get closer to your authenticity, the more you're going to be directed, like to write the right thing on your list and work with that thing.
Mm. It's almost like removing the labels. Like if you're manifesting
Yeah.
a label like that boss babe, I
Yeah.
think that I was going for my authentic code back in the day. Like if you're going for a label or a status, try to dig deeper, because that's when, especially on the end of next week, I have you guys like revise your list, and then you're going to be like, is this from ego or external validation? And you're going to be like, shit, okay, it is. But some part of that is part of your authenticity. So get to what part is authenticity and manifest that, because it'll make it so much faster.
And status is never authenticity. It's always ego. We break
Mm,
that down actually in that episode that's coming out with Janelle about the archetypes that when we get to that week in the challenge.
absolutely. Okay, one last maybe little quick one. Let's see. Let me pull from our recent ones. Mm, Lots of endings in my life recently. A job ending, friendship ending, my kitten disappeared, very sad.
Oh,
So sorry.
horrid, horrid.
Um Lots of things breaking. What are the energetics of all of these endings?
New beginnings. Yeah, it's all new beginnings. It's all you're up leveling in some way, shape, or form, whether you're aware of it or not.
Mm,
It's what we talk about a lot in the up level process when you're going from the small crab shell to the new one. You're literally the universe is clearing space for this new level of person you're becoming. And so it sounds like a lot of rock bottoms, and it sounds like you are consciously or unconsciously calling something in, and it's pretty close to you and it needs all of the space to come in and it's asking you to up level very fast your self-worth to connect with it. Very painful. The kitten part that kills me. That just kills me. I'm hoping for a happy ending on that.
yes.
But yeah, whatever you want to add, right now is the perfect time to be doing this challenge.
I know.
Like
I think
really.
that's kind of the season right now, is like going inward, processing your feelings, is like processing endings. We're dropping the letting go DI. Like this is, you're in the right community and the right challenge.
Yeah.
If you have faced a lot of endings, especially this past year. And one other word that kind of comes to mind right now and in this season is like self nurturing, like
Hmm.
being a little bit more nurturing to ourselves, to others around us, to just be a little bit more kind. I don't know. I just feel like I feel that like sensation from everyone. Like we're all like a little bit like raw in a way, and it's like how can we kind of just like help a friend out, do a favor to someone, like spread that love or kindness or something, because I think this has really nothing to do with the challenge, I guess, but this is just an energetic thing that I've noticed coming up for people too.
And always good to remember that.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys got this. We are week one in. It is not too late to join. You truly can join at any time. Just follow along the steps week over week. And
And we'll
I'm
see you in
excited.
LA. If
Yes.
anybody's local, we'll be there December 2nd for the speaking tour. So bring the rest of those 400 and X amount of questions to
Yeah.
the LA. I think how many tickets do we have leftish?
Not much. I want to
Yeah.
say like 30.
Yeah. So if
Very,
anybody is
very
wanting
little.
to join, hop
Yeah.
in.
All right. We'll see you guys there. Thanks so much and happy manifesting.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.